We now have Lee Giamona. Lee Giamona, here we go. I think that's pretty good. Pretty good height.
I'm calling on everyone in the bar and all those people listening on KWMR to join our pledge drive. So my poem is called KWMR Pledge Drive Poetry Night at the Old Western Saloon. KWMR on your radio dial, 90.5 will surely make you smile. How lucky are we on Tamales Bay, our very own radio station to play. Tune in to KWMR, and then you will hear local broadcasters and programs that make us all cheer. They are neighbors and friends and the folks down the street, sending out programs that are a real treat. Music for everyone, classics to blues, in English and Spanish and French, if you choose. Talk to inform you and stories to tell, news and events and local happenings as well. And when emergencies happen, we keep radios near for those all-important updates we all need to hear. But to keep this radio treasure on air, we all must now donate to show that we care. Without our donations, they cannot survive. So be your most generous to keep them alive. Call in your pledges. Be a calendar fan. Whatever many or few dollars, please donate what you can.
Thank you, Lee. Next up, we have Margarita Ramirez Loya. Yes? Are we ready? Yes, we have time, and we're doing well here. Yes, here we go. Margarita. Take it away.
Hi, my name is Margarita Ramirez Loya, and I'm one of the 3 writers in residence at Mesa Refuge. And it's great to be here. I arrived from Mexico, from Sonora, Mexico, a couple of days ago, and I love it here. You are great, and this radio station is great. I was in an interview earlier today, and it was just amazing. Thank you. So I'm going to include Cosmo from Enzo Resta in one of my poems because there's a piece of his life history that wasn't included in Enzo's poem, and his master was called Chonina Mataperros. Okay? So the poem is called 7 After 7. 7 after 7, and the voices begin to be heard. The town's tallest building opens its doors to let a multitude out. A type of fashion show unfolds as women, men, and children and dogs climb down the church steps after the priest gives them a passport to do whatever they please. 10 after 7, and the crowd marches to the town plaza. Sparse trees and cement benches are surrounded by a median barred fence. The music plays as the vendors open their tents to display their delights. Children run in their Sunday clothes. Mothers yell so they will be still. Men talk to men, and lines at lights turn opaque. At 7:45, the town dogs start to bark at the dogs that follow the man. Children run towards them and yell on top of their lungs, Chonina Mataperros, Chonina Mataperros, Chonina the dog killer. The ragged man, all too used to this welcome, continues his slow walk through the noise. 7 dogs guard their master and the smell that he leaves behind. A piece of his sleeve hangs loose as he grabs hold of a stick that serves as the cane. The women turn away in disgust and call on their children to make sure they are all right. The air fills with cotton candy, and with that comes a feeling of safety and blessing of having a good life. 8 o'clock sharp, and Chonina arrives at his alley. The dogs circle him, and he takes a piece of hard bread from his pocket. Every dog gets the same amount as the man. Sharing is essential. Love comes from unity. Slowly, each member begins to find his place on the ground, one covering the other, one on top of the other, each identifying their place and their smell. 8:15, and the town just went silent. The procession walked back home. The vendors are counting their money, and in the birth of night, Chonina and his dogs dream of bread. Thank you. There was Cosmo. Okay, the next one is very small, and it's a really true story. It happened to me a couple of weeks ago. Shiny fall. I fell today, 2 days after I bought my flip-flops. The palms of my hands scraped 1/8 of the sidewalk on 2nd Street. My knees made a dent on the curve. Kneeling, cars passed behind me. A cyclist asked, "Are you all right?" And all I want is my shiny flip-flop in the middle of the street. Okay. Thank you.
Margarita. Thank you, Margarita Ramirez Loya. Next up, I think we have time before we break. Yes. Reggie Styles States Mesa Refuge. Mesa Refuge. There you go. I probably said it all wrong, right?
No, you said it almost right. It's Reggie Sites.
Okay.
And like Margarita, I'm a resident at Mesa Refuge this week. So I have an epic poem that I'm not going to read all of. I don't want to subject that. Yes! But this is a poem that parallels my book project that I'm working on right now at the Mesa Refuge. The book project covers 4 centuries of my family's history. So there's a lot in it. This poem is just a small taste of that. It's called A Song to Recall Us. I am child to multitudes, child to untold millions, so many erased by time, but not erased in me. I carry their souls in every cell. I remember. I recall us. I recall Richard, a father far down the line of fathers, who was born in England in 1625, who never went to school, never learned to write his name, but made his mark beside his name, beside a name he knew but could not read, in the ravaged forests of wood seats outside Sheffield. Richard learned the mystery of coaling, learned the mystery of making coals from timber, learned to cut the timber and to cure it, learned to wait, learned to stack the wood into piles, just so before it was lit, before it was smothered with leaf litter and dirt, learned to leave a path for the air to flow, into the fire, but not too much, just enough to keep the fire lit, low but hot, low but burning, for day after day. From Massachusetts Bay, agents from the ironworks went to England. Agents went to Sheffield to look for foundrymen, for colliers. Agents from the ironworks found Richard in wood seats where the trees were all gone. When the trees were all gone, fed to the foundries of Sheffield. Agents told Richard of the forests of New England, empty of people, they promised, full of trees. Richard made his mark on the indenture papers, made his mark beside his name. Papers he could not read, papers binding him in debt for the long voyage, in debt for the long voyage to America, in debt for the voyage to Massachusetts, to Salem, a city of Puritans. But Richard was no Puritan. In 1649, the Puritan court in Salem found Richard guilty of swearing on the Sabbath, found Richard guilty of attending church but once in a year, found Richard guilty of breaking the head of Sam Bailey. In 1650, the Puritan court found Richard guilty, found him guilty again, found him guilty of debt, guilty of a debt he could not pay. Richard ran from his debt, ran from the Puritans in Salem, ran to the Dutch on Long Island, ran to Hempstead on Long Island, ran far from the Salem courts. Richard made a life in Hempstead. No longer in bondage, Richard became a free man. Richard became a free man in 1655 when enslaved black men were brought to Hempstead. Richard became a white man, a free white man. Richard became a free white man in a place where more white men were needed, in a place where white men were considered more precious than gold, in a place where white men were wanted to pay the land tax to the Dutch, in a place where white men were wanted to keep the Indians at bay. Richard's land was given to him by the Dutch, but not theirs to give. Richard's land was taken from the Munsee Lenape. Land was taken from the Munsee Lenape, who revered the land. Land taken from the Munsee Lenape, who treated the land as their kin. The Munsee Lenape, who believed the land could not be owned. The Munsee Lenape, who still live on the land and call it home. In Hempstead, white men fenced the land. White men fenced the land to mark it as property. To mark it as property only white men could own. To mark it as a place where only white men could own land. To mark it as a place where only white men could own animals. To mark it as a place where only white men could own people. In time, Richard became a proprietor of Hempstead. In time, Richard became an owner of land, an owner of animals, an owner of people. Richard's name was recorded in the Hempstead town records. Richard's family name was recorded as Stix, as Stike, as Stitz. Richard's family name was recorded as Stites. The family name Stites was passed on to 9 more generations of sons, and now, 3 centuries from Richard, I inherited a debt to be repaid in words, a debt to be repaid in actions, a debt to be repaid in kind and in kindness, a debt to be repaid in truth. From Richard Stites, from all my white American ancestors, I inherited an obligation to unearth the truth about white supremacy in American history, an obligation to resist and subvert white supremacy in America today, an obligation to end racial violence, an obligation to pursue racial justice, an obligation to find racial healing.
Reggie, thank you so much. That's really good stuff.
This is KWMR 90.5 in Point Reyes Station, 89.9 in Bolinas, and 92.3 in the San Geronimo Valley. We're currently live streaming from the Old Western Saloon.
Alyssa, we're going back.
Alyssa, that's me.
And Jeff, you need to be on the board for this if we want to hear Joanne Kiger's poem.
That's right.
We're going to do that. So let's bring down me and bring up her.
This is KWMR 90.5 in Point Reyes Station, 89.9 in Bolinas, and 92.3 in the San Geronimo Valley. We are in the middle of our spring pledge drive. If you are interested in supporting the station and the work that we do, you can give Amanda Eichstead a call here at the station. The number is 415-663-9050, and we have some more poetry coming your way.
April 4th, time of wonder. So much talk of the heart and breath is nothing if not practiced in this helter-skelter, in this wandering wound. Tin-hearted memories, chemicals. We fight incredibly through a hideous mishmash of inheritance, forgiving for deeper stamina. That we go on, the world always goes on, breaking us with its changes, until our form, exhausted, runs true. Get a lot of bird sound out here.
Voice coming through Zoom, through FM broadcast, and to you, dear listeners. Thank you for listening, and thank you for being here together tonight.
415-663-9050. Call up and support what you're experiencing here, either live here at the Western or somewhere in the world. If it moves you, perhaps it can move you to click a few buttons on our website at KWMR. I'm up again. This is my actual poem, The One Thing I Want to Do. A little background, it was written on July 11th, 1991, which happens to be the longest total solar eclipse for the next 250 years after it in the North America. So, written in Bahia de los Muertos, Baja California. Zizagi. The land goes cold and the lizards dance. Mountains succumb to freeze and twilight. A swath of night sweeps the valley to the sand and sea. In instant midday sunset, vultures want to sleep. Time twirls, then ceases as we breathe in, breathe in, breathe. They're all here now. 3 orbs all coincide, spying down at us. Nothing is hiding, yet we are all alone. To witness this celestial menage a trois, as Luna wants the day for night, but Sol's mane of light streaks through in a translucent scrim, descending on the bay of the dead. Somehow Helios, consumed by the sky dragon in a predictably violent moment, is full of grace with perfect timing. Running to the beach, the shadow hastens us to follow. A dream swallowed in the shore, a fleeting moment caught just once and vanishing, now out of reach. Breathe out, breathe again. The day returns in a singular way, into the water with triggerfish and playful waves, seeing green brains of coral and ever-smiling puffers. We're all here now, together again, enjoying our time with the earth, the moon, the sun, and everything in between. Thank you. Next up, we have Christopher Schneiders. And after that, Meg Campbell. Christopher Schneiders, are you in the house?
Right on, right on. And I'll say again, this is KWMR, Point Reyes Station. We are broadcasting live from the Old Western Saloon here in downtown Point Reyes Station. So thanks for being with us, and glad to have you here, Christopher.
All right. Great to be here from L.A., which is where I drove up from yesterday. I've been around this part long enough to be happy to be here and say support KWMR. I threw $20 in, so if you're driving around, donate $20 for the love of poetry. By God.
Right on, right on.
Right. So this is a poem I wrote in 1999. It's the only one I have access to, published in 2011 on Zocalo Public Square in LA. And here it goes. There's a lot of birds. This is about trying to kill birds down by the Mexico border. It's called Intelligent Pig. Went down to El Centro with the men in my family, down by the Calexico border, in the mountains of Mexicali. We woke before 4 a.m., ate cereal, fruit, drank coffee and orange juice, hunters on opening day. We found a pre-sunrise empty spot that was our choice territory and watched the lights arrive. Been hunting all my life and never seen such a mass of birds covering the morning sky. It was beautiful, a hunter's dream. And ain't that a bird's nightmare? I focused on a bead and pulled the trigger. A dove fell to the earth on my right and looked into my eyes, and we knew the world. 15 feet of knowing, then dead. See you in transition, my fine, fair-feathered friend, when I will be a bird, and you that man with the shotgun. I have killed, and I am alive. Watch life expire, and I am alive. See my sister go, see my mother go, seeing a dove go. And I am your friend, troubled, damaged, and happy as F, loving barbecue ribs so much that I might as well shoot a pig. Oh, intelligent pig, where do we go when we die? Thank you, that's it.
All right, and this is Jeff Manson, your friendly program director from KWMR, stepping in to say thank you all for being here. Thank you for supporting community radio. Thank you for supporting community saloons. Thank you for supporting poetry. And I'm happy to say that one of my compatriots from Bolinas has agreed to come and read a couple poems. Meg Campbell, you might have caught her stuff in the Bolinas Hearsay News over the last several months and years. So let's give a warm welcome to Meg Campbell here with some poetry.
Hi. I'm popping my poetry reading cherry, as well as even speaking into a mic cherry. So here we are. Thank you for having me. See how this goes. Okay. Honey as a color, as a dog who meets you in the road. Honey as the heart of the man who comes to cut one twig of early plum blossoms. She's still here, we say to each other. Honey as good fortune. Honey as the bouncing curls of the boy spirit everyone was waiting for. Honey as the music, as the night in the car, as the rounding corners. Saxophone honey. Honey for my tea, for my burn from the kettle, cooking you coffee, hoping you'd arrive in the morning honey-colored sun. It is my favorite time of day for you to arrive, honey. Okay. I'll go with one more because I think I might be at capacity after that, but I even wore camo and so I could disappear up here, but here I am. I was comfortable in my sweater. I saw a friend today. His hair was ablaze, frizz collecting light from the sky, catching the sun setting behind him. Orange like cara cara, orange like sherbet, mango, okay? Orange like spritz on the table on the cobblestone in the shade in Torino, after the piano, after the fox pin. Orange like your wall I never saw. Like the water, like the reflection I dip my hand into, one after the other. Orange like the back of my throat, mouth opened wide to the sky, cradling the last of the sun. Orange like blossom, 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 please. Orange you glad. I never cared much, I swear. I never cared much for the color orange. But you paint your walls with it.
And that's Meg Campbell reading to you live from the bar, broadcast onto the radio, out to the world.
And next up, we have Michelle Walker. Michelle Walker. Right now, right here, KWMR and the Western.
Thank you. Hi. Can I get a hi? Woo! This is so good. Thank you to everyone who's read already. I love to write, but tonight I want to pay tribute to two things that were written that gave me words when I did not have my own and got me here. I grew up the first 18 years of my life in Fairfield, California, and then I moved to Utah for the last 18. And I just moved back. It'll be a year and 2 weeks. Like, it's good. And these are the two poems that were given to me that got, like I said, the words that got me here. And I give them to you tonight. This is by Rilke, and it's Go to the Limits of Your Longing. God speaks to each of us as he makes us, or she makes us, then walks with us silently out of the night. These are the words we dimly hear. You sent out beyond your recall, go to the limits of your longing. Embody me. Flare up like a flame and make you be terrorists. Keep going. No feeling is final. Don't let yourself lose me. Nearby is the country they call life. You will know it by its seriousness. Give me your hand. This second one is by Ayn Rand, and I taught high school to a bunch of punk-ass kids in Utah. I taught art and English, and I taught seniors because no one wanted them, and I was like, I'll take them. And I would read this to them on their last day, and a bunch of my students, they graduate every April, and I always think of them. So I'm going to read this to you like I read it the last time I read to them before coming here. Do not let your fire go out. Spark by irreplaceable spark. In the hopeless swamps of the not quite, the not yet, and the not at all, do not let the hero in your soul perish in lonely frustration for the life you deserve but have not yet been able to reach. The life, the world you desire can be won. It exists. It is possible. It is real. It is yours. Thank you.
Michelle Walker, thank you so much.
But Flynn preceded Casey, as did also Jimmy Blake. The former was a Ludo and the latter was a cake, so upon that stricken multitude grim melancholy sat, for it seemed of little chance of Casey getting to the bat. But Flynn let drive a single to the wonderment of all, and Blake, the much despised, he tore the cover off the ball, and when the dust had lifted, and men saw what had occurred, there was Jimmy safe in second, and Flynn a hug in third, and from 5,000 throats or more there rose a lusty yell. It rumbled in the valley, it rattled in the dell, it pounded upon the mountain and recoiled upon the flat, for Casey, mighty Casey, was advancing to the bat, and there was ease in Casey's manner as he stepped up to the plate, and a smile in Casey's visage, and as a smile at Casey's face. And as responding to the cheers, he lightly doffed his hat, and no stranger in the crowd could doubt 'twas Casey at the bat. 10,000 eyes were on him as he rubbed his hands in the dirt. 10,000 tongues applaud him as he wiped it on his shirt, and as the grueling pitcher ground the ball into his hip, defiance flashed in Casey's eye, and a sneer curled Casey's lip. Close by the heated batsman, the ball unheeded sped. "That ain't my style," said Casey. "Strike one," the umpire said. And from the benches black with people there came up a muffled roar, like the beating of a storm wave on a stern and distant shore. "Kill him! Kill the umpire!" shouted someone in the stands, and it's likely they'd had killed him had not Casey raised his hand. With a smile of Christian charity, great Casey's visage shone. He signaled to the pitcher and then said, let's pitch, continue the game, please. And then he signaled to the pitcher, and once more that dun sphere flew, but Casey still ignored it as the umpire cried, Strike two. Fraud! Cried the maddened thousands, and the echo answered fraud. But one scornful look from Casey, and the audience was awed. The sneer had fled from Casey's lip. His teeth were clenched in hate. He pounds with cruel violence his bat upon the plate. And now the pitcher holds the ball. And now he lets it go. And now the air is shattered by the force of Casey's blow. Oh, oh, oh. Oh, somewhere in this favored land, the sun is shining bright. The band is playing somewhere, and somewhere their hearts are light. And somewhere men are laughing and little children shout. But there is no joy in Mudville, for mighty Casey has struck out.
It's Connor McGuire, everyone. Well done. Reciting from memory, Casey at the bat.
Now there's a patriot of KWMR. We are just before the top of the hour, and we are now at Fiona O'Kelly. Fiona O'Kelly. Yes. Oh, by the way, Miss, we're on the radio.
Thanks for letting me know.
She didn't know that on Burns night, it turned out.
Thank you, Matt, for lowering the microphone for me. I just want to let all the folks who are listening know that Connor did that from memory. So let's give him a round of applause, because that was amazing. Casey at the bat from memory is truly incredible. Okay, so I have a poem that I would love to share with you, one of my most favorites, and it's written by Langdon Smith. And something really special about this poem is when it was written, so I have a little bit of a blurb about it. The first few stanzas of this poem, Evolution, were written and published in the New York Herald in 1895. It was worked upon for many years and later published in full in the New York Journal sometime before 1906 and posthumously published and illustrated in annotated book form as Evolution, a Fantasy in 1909. All right, so I am not doing this from memory. Again, it's called Evolution. When you were a tadpole and I was a fish in the Paleozoic time, and side by side on the ebbing tide we sprawled through the ooze and slime, or skittered with many a caudal flip through the depths of the Cambrian fen, my heart was rife with the joy of life, for I loved you even then. Mindless we lived, and mindless we loved, and mindless at last we died. And deep in the rift of the Caradoc drift, we slumbered side by side. The world turned on in the lathe of time, the hot hands heaved amain, till we caught our breath from the womb of death and crept into life again. We were amphibians, scaled and tailed, and drab as a dead man's hand. We coiled at ease neath the dripping trees, or trailed through the mud and sand. Croaking and blind with our three-clawed feet, writing a language dumb, with never a spark in the empty dark to hint at a life to come. Yet happy we lived, and happy we loved, and happy we died once more. Our forms were rolled in the clinging mold of a Neocomian shore. The eons came and the eons fled, and the sleep that wrapped us fast was riven away in a newer day, and the night of death was past. Then light and swift through the jungle trees we swung in our airy flights, or breathed in the balms of the fronded palms in the hush of the moonless nights. And oh, what a beautiful years were there when our hearts clung each to each, when life was filled and our senses thrilled in the first faint dawn of speech. Thus life by life and love by love, we passed through the cycle strange, and breath by breath, hold on, it just went away. Okay, there we go. And breath by breath and death by death, we followed the change of change, till there came a time in the law of life when over the nursing sod, the shadows broke and the soul awoke in a strange, dim dream of God. I was thewed like an auroch bull and tusked like the great cave bear, And you, my sweet, from head to feet, were gowned in your glorious hair. Deep in the gloom of a fireless cave, when the night fell o'er the plain, and the moon hung red o'er the riverbed, we mumbled the bones of the slain. I flaked a flint to a cutting edge and shaped it with a brutish craft. I broke a shank from the woodland lank and fitted it, head and haft. Then I hid me close to the reedy tarn where the mammoth came to drink. Through the brawn and bone I drove the stone and slew him upon the brink. Loud I howled through the moonlit wastes, loud answered our kith and kin. From west to east to the crimson feast the clan came tramping in. O'er joint and gristle and padded hoof we fought and clawed and tore, and cheek by jowl with many a growl we talked the marvel o'er. I carved that fight on a reindeer bone with a rude and hairy hand. I pictured his fall on the cavern wall that men might understand. For we lived by blood and the right of might ere human laws were drawn, and the age of sin did not begin till our brutal tusks were gone. And that was 1,000,000 years ago, in a time that no man knows. Yet here tonight in the mellow light we sit at Delmonico's. Your eyes are deep as the Devon springs, your hair is dark as jet. Your years are few, your life is new, your soul untried, and yet. Our trail is on the Kimmeridge clay and the scarp of the Purbeck flags. We have left our bones in the bagshot stones and deep in the Coralline crags. Our love is old, our lives are old, and death shall come amain. Should it come today, what man may say, we shall not live again. God wrought our souls from the Tremadoc beds and furnished them wings to fly. He sowed our spawn in the world's dim dawn, and I know that it shall not die. Though cities have sprung above the graves where the crook-boned men made war, and the ox-wain creaks o'er the buried caves where the mummied mammoths are. Then as we linger at luncheon here, or many a dainty dish, let us drink anew to the time when you were a tadpole and I was a fish.
This is KWMR 90.5 in Point Reyes Station, 89.9 in Bolinas, and 92.3 in the San Geronimo Valley. We are currently live streaming from the Western Saloon in downtown Point Reyes Station, and we're going to extend this another half hour here. We'll be going until 9:30 tonight, and there are still lots of folks that are looking to give some poems out over the mic there. It looks like there's some shuffling going on. We are in the middle of our spring pledge drive, and this event is part of our fundraiser. Our theme this time around is poetry, and this poetry night, we're so thankful for all the folks that gave donations. We've had a little, I think it's just around $200 from tips at the Western, which has pushed us up to 79% of our overall goal for this fundraiser. If you would like to be a part of that and you're sitting at home, driving in your car, you can give Amanda a call here at the station to help to contribute. The number is 415-663-9050. And now we are headed back to the Western Saloon.
At a poetry reading twice tonight. So here we go. Call me Pandora, or just call me Eve. Daigle and apple, or give me a box. All males I was created to deceive and cause all evil. What a paradox. When it is life I give in labor or in my sudden death because I want to. Set the record straight. What is it all for? If not for the beauty of one's soul's view. Can I bear this burden of man's making, justify my right to exist, proving all I am worth, and yet I'm forsaking the exiles from Greece, Eden moving into the rights of all to live, survive. The conjured myths of men can be belied.
Thank you, Erin Dell, bringing us a sonnet on this fine poetry evening.
Right. And next up, we have Betty, if you're ready. Betty.
Hi. All right, thank you. I don't have too much mic experience, but I'll do my best. Okay. If you go over it, you won't hear the P's. All right. My poem is going to be super heavy and intense because I was born in Ukraine. And I went over there and volunteered for 3 months, and I came back. And I wrote this poem on Thursday, January 26th. But I added an extra stanza today because I was thinking about, this morning when I was having eggs and coffee, I was thinking about what does it mean to be home and what is the price that people are willing to be at home. So here's my poem with the extra stanza. War, full-scale invasion of Ukraine, attempted daily by Russia. War stirs up ancient grief in my DNA. War makes me remember the dismembered family members. The torture chambers of Russian Empire never stopped operating. Every morning for a year now, I wake up and I check my phone to see if my aunts and cousins are still alive. Then, over eggs and coffee, I think of how every Ukrainian is there now, plays the ultimate game of Russian roulette, risking their lives to be at home. Thank you.
Oh, that was great. Thank you, Betty. Thank you so much for adding to it as well. Who do we have next? Did I say? Was it Jane? Yes. Jane remembered. Here's Jane. One of the reasons that we're doing this here at the Western, Jane.
Yeah, so first of all, let's thank Jimmy G, Jeff, and Alyssa for making this work. This is so magical. Yeah, so I am a bartender here for those of you who don't know, and I also book bands in case you want to bring your band here, and run the open mic on Monday nights, poetry, music, comedy, whatever. Okay, good, even performance art. This is so exciting to me that you're all here, so I want to welcome KWMR like I should have when this thing opened, but I was watching grandchildren. But in any case, to not take up too much time and space, so thank you, KWMR, for being here, and let's spend a lot of money on KWMR. Okay, I want to do that. So you're getting my 50. Yeah, okay, that's good, right? Number two, I'm here also representing a little group that is celebrating its 50th anniversary called Planet Drum. And it was from San Francisco, and they promoted programs like Green City. And they have done things like just bust up concrete and put plants in there. And we are such a plant and such an organic community. I want you all to know that they're going to be having some events, which we'll put to the radio station and in the Point Reyes Light, so we can all participate. They've been out here. They're just like a sister thing to us. It's their 50th birthday party. Things are coming. All right. So one of the things that I benefited from being a part of that organization, and oh, by the way, happy birthday, Milo. Happy birthday, Milo. Who is from Inverness? Yeah? Okay. Good. Here we are. Poetry night, right? So Li Po is the Chinese poet, very famous, but maybe not so much anymore. And so this poem was written about Li Po's daughters, and Planet Drum published it many years ago. So this is the one I want to bring, although I have many others. Here we go. Li Po's daughters, whose father was one of China's greatest poets, were found some years after his dying, married to peasants and living in great poverty.
I'm happy to be here with you, and I didn't think anyone was going to show up until I signed up on one of the early ones, just to make sure that we'd have something to put on the radio. And I'm happy to be here with you, and I didn't think anyone was going to show up until I signed up on one of the early ones, just to make sure that we'd have something to put on the radio. And I'm happy to be here with you, and I didn't think anyone was going to show up until I signed up on one of the early ones, just to make sure that we'd have something to put on the radio.
Thank you all for being here. Woo, woo, woo! KWMR!
I didn't think anyone was going to show up until I signed up on one of the early ones, just to make sure that we'd have something to put on the radio.
I'm not sure
I'm
if
happy to be here with you, and I didn't think anyone was going to show up until I signed up on one of the early ones, just to make sure that we'd have something to put on the radio. I'm happy to be here with you, and I didn't think anyone was going to show up until I signed up on one of the early ones, just to make sure that we'd have something to put on the radio. And I'm happy to be here with you, and I didn't think anyone was going to show up until I signed up on one of the early ones, just to make sure that we'd have something to put on the radio. And I'm happy to be here with you. And
tunes for you. We're just kind of dialing it in. Yeah. And that's channel number 2. You can turn it up a little bit. And I'm also, you could unmute the channel 3, which is the DI.
If you are just tuning in, we are live streaming from the Western Saloon on Poetry Night.
Here's a true story.
And here is Jeff Manson with a couple of songs.
Almost exactly. It was nearly Easter. I waked, I baked, I wound up down at the hardware store. You know, they got a little bit of a lot there, but I can't say for sure. Left my list back home on the counter. Couldn't tell you what I came in for. I went wandering the aisles, thinking about resurrection, realizing I'm raising some suspicion. So I settle on a pack of plastic eggs, a little something for the kids. Coming through a rough patch, the chocolate rabbit well hid, melting down to syrup in next summer's tall grass, and the plastic, and the, oh, I lost it. Well, the canary yellow and lavender, baby blues all start to break into ever smaller pieces. But they'll never go away. A little something for the kids. Wound up down at something. You know, they got a little bit of a lot there.
can't
A
say
boy
for
comes
sure.
in running, says,
Left
Papa,
my list
come
back
see.
home on the
It's
counter.
only 6 months
Tell you
till
what I
next
came
Halloween.
in for.
So now we're sitting, cutting
I went
ghosts
wandering
from
the
paper,
aisle,
nearly going through a whole
thinking about
ream.
resurrection,
Taping 'em
realizing
to the
I'm
windows,
raising some suspicion.
blocking out the world
So
outside.
I settle on a pack of plastic
Trouble
eggs.
ahead, trouble
Behind
something
but in a
for the
brief
kids.
homemade twilight, we're both feeling fine,
Coming
fine,
through a
fine,
rough
water
patch.
finding its way. The chocolate rabbit, well,
Same moon
here.
shining down on everyone.
melting down to syrup in
Herb
next
finding the
summer's
stray.
tall
And we're
grass
thrashing
and the
around
plastic,
trying to patch things up
or
for the
excuse me,
kids.
and the
Coming through
Oh,
a
I
rough
lost it.
patch. The neon candy under
well,
doled out for good deeds,
the-
so very individually wrapped, and the shocking orange, electric green, highly yellow.
canary yellow and lavender. Baby blues all start to break into ever smaller pieces, but they'll never go away. A little something for the kids, little something. A boy comes in running, says, Papa, come see. It's only 6 months till next Halloween. So now we're sitting, cutting ghosts from paper, nearly going through a whole ream, taping them to the windows, blocking out the world outside. Trouble ahead, trouble behind, but in a brief homemade twilight, we're both feeling fine, fine, fine. Water finding its way, the same moon shining down on everyone, the herd finding the stray, and we're thrashing around trying to patch things up for the kids. Coming through a rough patch, the neon candy under lock and key, doled out for good deeds, so very individually wrapped, and the shocking orange, electric green, high-vis yellow in the ditch by the road, and the petrified chew of the crunch gone stale, and the outside creeping inside, and the inside little something for the kids, little something, little something for the kids, little something. Should I do one more, or what's our time? Well, we've only got a little bit more, so I guess I better fill in for a moment. This one we'll just kind of recite. This one's called Cracked and Connected, and it's another true story that a little something paraphrase from Crazy Jane in Bolinas. I miss Jane Blethen. A shout out to Jane. And it goes like this. A lovely wild hag was 86th. From what some Karen was calling a family restaurant. From beneath the open window, I heard the manager say,
Ma'am, I'm gonna have to ask you to leave. And under her breath, under a bundle of rags, muttered incantations obscene. Dragged her wet cape of burlap, smeared a slug trail behind, as we found ourselves alone together out in the street. To be polite, I asked how it was going. And she replied by lighting a crooked cigarette. And then, apropos of nothing, and with surprising lucidity, here's a little bit of what that lovely wild hag said to me. She said, I'm cracked, but I'm connected. Little cringe, but I'm free. Wound up a little further afield than I intended to be. Little rough around the edges, but the edge is where the clear view tends to be. When you cracked, you're connected, charting on somebody's spectrum. Little cringe, but you're free. And then the next vignette was on Olima Bolinas Road, something that I saw while driving along. It was a lovely old head beside his rig, hassled by some pig for wearing out-of-date tags. From my open passenger window, I heard the young deputy say, I'm gonna have to have you step out of the vehicle, please. I caught a wink of his eye, I caught that old Jedi smile. I caught a trick of the light, a little bit of that old classic hippie sleight of hand, and apropos of nothing, doing 15 miles an hour down the track, and understanding passed between us. I'm still trying to unpack, cracked and connected. Little cringe, but I'm free. Wound up a little further afield than I intended to be. A little rough around the edges, but the edge is where the clear view tends to be. When you're cracked, you're connected, charting on somebody's spectrum. Little cringe, but you're free. And now the freak flag's hanging limp in the grim auction house. In spite of all this bleakness, it's we freaks who ought to fly. And apropos of nothing, for no good reason I could point to, I feel a lovely wild feeling in the corner of my mind. Okay, thank you.
Jeff Manson, program director of KWMR, and also musician and singer. We've just got a couple more things, unless there's a last-minute desire. Somebody has a poetry thing in their back pocket, but I'm going to read my friend and local poet Paul Watsky's poem that's going to come out in his next book called Endgame that he's waiting to publish. So he let me read it recently, and it goes something like this. Thank you for staying with us, both in the radio world and at the Western. We're almost finishing up, and big thanks to Alyssa. And thank you to Jimmy, also, who's given up his show for this. It was much more fun. It's a real megalo-media melange type of show. Hello. Yeah, I don't need that one. You can just turn that one down. Okay. That's better. Okay. So, Paul Watsky is married to Claire Miller, who is the daughter of Clem Miller, and he's a Jungian psychologist and also a PhD, double PhD in English. This poem is What Mattered to Me About the Wind in the Willows. What mattered to me about the wind in the willows was friendship. A rat, a mole, sharing the river, which of course represented time proceeding lawfully, according to nature's dictates. My first friend ever in 4th grade was Susan D., who didn't fit in much better than I. Our dates involved hangouts at Riverside Park, where we picked dandelions. She'd bring home for her mother to make salads. She was a small, quiet, good animal, and I have no idea what, if anything, I meant to her. 50 years or so later, Charles K., psych school friend I'd visit in Montana, gave me a fly fishing lesson on Horse Creek. I lacked aptitude for casting, but he promised to keep coaching me, which, except for the glioblastoma, he'd certainly would have done. Now this late June, lunch spent contemplating together a neurologist with a Jungian analyst, our childhood miseries, various suicides, where friends sit beside the truckee, breezing its snow melt past us. Who, you might ask, reads that antiquated tale? A pity. Hardly anyone inclined to diagnosing close acquaintances would find it less than au courant. Take the dysthymic mole, Ratty and his touch of OCD, Toad, floridly bipolar, Stoats, weasels, psychopathic everyone, poor Mr. Badger, crippled by social phobia, Otter, extroverted, omnicompetent, though implicitly dyslectic. Those identical, incurious, nasty rabbits informed exclusively by Fox News. The river, opaque, egalitarian, merely flows. Nobody's special pal. Paul Watsky. And last but certainly not least, tonight, Aaron Bush. Come on down. Do we have Aaron Bush? There he is. Remember, we're keeping it clean. This is on the radio. I don't want to kick you out like the other guy. Go a little lower. It'd be great to speak over the top of it. It's got a lot of plosive. Okay, and we got one more great thing coming up, special guest, right after this. Take it away.
Hey guys, I'm Aaron. I didn't know this was happening, but my girlfriend signed me up, so I found one poem I've written. All you touch and all you see is all your life will ever be. But I make this mistake time and again. Speak to me, explain. And we can build beautiful castles in the air. With each promise we declare. But words are mortar that never dry. Fluid fusiles back in our eyes. One vision in your mind lies, and another works itself in mine. From the fodder of spoken substance that only its essential nature gains, from accrued associated growths and pains, in our view waxes and wanes with liquid chronology unwinding swift, from shared memories till like one wave in the bath cuts an interference swath through its previously perfect path, and the dreams we built together do our hearts' hopes shatter and smash.
Thank you. Thank you, Aaron. Just so you know, we actually just got a last-minute entry. You're ready? Is it Eva or Eva? Eva? Well, you're right up here, and then. Okay, Mia Johnson first. Then you're out. Okay. Sorry. Thought she was closing it out, but not closing it out.
On behalf of KWMR, thank you so much for coming out tonight, everybody. We've got a tip jar coming around. If anyone's inspired to make a last-minute donation, we're still trying to get to 60,000. And I want to thank my coworkers, Jeff and Matt, and I'm sure Sharon supported in some way, and Alyssa, who's holding it down at the station, Amanda. Really an awesome crew who made this happen. And thank you for everyone for coming out tonight. So, and to the Martinezes, who have a strong representation over here. So this song that I'm going to sing, I wanted to sing it because I feel like the radio station is a platform for everyone's voice. So it's a song about kind of questioning whether you should speak or not, and just exploring that. So, I haven't sang in a while. Damn, If it be your will that I speak no more, and my voice be still as it was before, I will speak no more. I shall abide until I am spoken for, if it be your will. If it be your will that a voice be true from this broken hill, I will sing to you. From this broken hill, all your praises they shall ring. From this broken hill, if you let me sing. If it be your will, if there is a choice, let the rivers fill, let the hills rejoice, let your mercy spill on all these burning hearts in hell. If it be your will to make us well, so gather near and bind us tight, all your children here in their rags of light.
in the rags of light, all dressed to kill. And this night, if it be your will, if it be your will. Thank you all.
You are tuned in to KWMR 90.5 in Point Reyes Station, 89.9 in Bolinas, and 92.3 in the San Geronimo Valley.
So, we got Eva?
High-speed internet services for KWMR are underwritten by Horizon Cable. Online at horizoncable.com. We want to say thanks to all the folks who came out to the Western this evening. For those of you that are listening back at home or on your drive, wherever you may be. There are some more folks that have things prepared, and I feel like we should let them all share what they're sharing. Let's head back to the Western now.
I wrote called Miracles as These. I drive you home after the accident and pull tiny pieces of glass from your hair. A few days before, we climbed a boulder on Bolinas Ridge at dusk. The only sound, suckling cattle on the wet grass beneath our dangling feet. Broken glass, nursing calf, jackrabbit in the meadow at dawn. Ordinary miracles as these things we whisper to ourselves to make it through the aching night. I write it 5 times, 5 ways, and it's still not quite right. It is simple, though. The way your skin glows pale blue under moonlight, still, somehow, warm and alive, against the sheets, against all odds, against the steaming wreckage of the red car bent into something beyond machine, against the rainbowed sky, rising and falling in miraculous, methodic breath. Thank you.
So,
I think that's a wrap.
That's yeah.
Thanks, everybody.
Cut and print. Wait,
yeah.
Wrong medium. Alyssa, thank you so much for holding it all down there, and Amanda and anybody else. And thanks to the Western, to Matt. Remember to tip your bartender. Please, if you have extra change or dollars or $100 bills, you can give it to Mia. We can take it for the tip jar, for the donations. How many days do we have left? We're down to how many days?
2 days.
2 days left. So if you're thinking about it, you're on the fence, do you like to give money to people? Maybe you've never listened to KWMR before. Maybe this is the first time you're driving through town. Maybe you're in what do we call them? An Airbnb, and you tuned in locally. Yeah, maybe you bought a house here and you also would like to buy us I heard a $700,000 pledge. That was you that had talked. It was somebody from the Mesa Red.
I had to correct. Yes, yeah.
They said we've already raised $700,000.
We're working on different scales of magnitude.
And I was like, wow, can we just have a percentage of that? All we need is, what do we need? We just need
we just need
a few thousand.
We need a few bucks, man.
Well, we'll take a few thousand right now. Anyway, thank you so much. I don't know. I can see your face. I can see if you're talking. I'm waving to Alyssa through the technology of Zoom on the internet. Anything else, Jeff? What do we
I think that's
say?
it. Thank you, Jimmy, for a great evening.
Thank you to all the local poets, luminaries, musicians, everybody. It was great. A lot of fun.
Yeah, and we'll be back. In the morning.
And there we are. Just have a great evening.
Thank you all for listening to Poetry Night at the Western Saloon. We have music to carry you through until 10 this evening. Stay tuned to KWMR. And if you'd like to call in and make a contribution to our pledge drive, we are 79% the way to our goal. You can give me a call at 415-663-9050.